Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 3. Now let's start the fanfic. Daimyo Manor, Side Hall. Incense burned quietly in the hall, a faint elegant smoke curling upward. The sound of string and wind instruments echoed softly. Arashi leaned lazily on a large, soft couch. His dark robe was loose at the collar, revealing his broad chest. His expression was one of contentment. In the center of the hall, a group of dancers swayed gracefully. The lead dancer had a slender figure and a narrow waist. She wore only a thin pink gauze skirt, barely covering what needed to be covered. Her movements were nimble, and the view beneath her skirt occasionally showed through. Her snow-white skin gleamed with a soft luster, and her long, straight legs flashed in and out as her skirt swayed. Each spin brought a faint scent of perfume. Each backward glance was filled with charm. Their dance was graceful and alluring, sometimes flowing, sometimes entwined. Every movement was a silent temptation, every gesture testing the preference of the man seated above. They were carefully chosen beauties, gifts for the new daimyo. In their eyes burned raw desire. If they could earn even a trace of favor from that man, they could rise in rank and status. That thought made their dancing more passionate and captivating. Arashi watched, a satisfied expression on his face, the fire in his gaze growing stronger. At his lower seat, Aono Saku sat upright and solemn, completely out of place in this atmosphere. Saku. Arashi withdrew his gaze from the dancers, lifted his wine cup, and spoke casually. Yes, Daimyo-sama. Saku immediately bowed respectfully. Arashi drank the wine in one gulp. Are your clansmen settling well in the fire capital? Saku replied, thanks to Daimyo-sama's kindness, our people have settled down. Just settling down isn't enough, Arashi said, putting down his cup. The funds I gave you aren't meant to be hoarded. Tell them to open shops, start businesses, and fully integrate into the fire capital. Send the talented young ones to school to learn new knowledge. Don't just cling to ninjutsu. You've already joined the Anbu, so your clan should be able to stand proudly in the sunlight, not hide forever in the shadows. If your children's faces aren't smiling, wouldn't that make me a failure? Saku looked up suddenly, shock flashing in his eyes. Then gratitude replaced it. He bowed deeply, his forehead touching the floor. His voice was hoarse with emotion. Thank you, Daimyo-sama. The Senju clan will serve you loyally for generations. Get up, Arashi said with a faint smile. I'm not a heartless person. With me, you'll only live better. Thank you, Daimyo-sama. Saku kowtowed again. Just then, Saku caught a glimpse of a shadow outside the hall. The person didn't enter, only gave him a subtle hand signal. Saku immediately said, Daimyo-sama, there is news from Jin's side. Please allow me to take my leave for a moment. Go. Arashi waved his hand, his attention already back on the dancers. Saku left the side hall quickly. In a deserted corner, an Anbu operative disguised as a guard knelt on one knee, presenting a small bamboo tube with both hands. Without a word exchanged, the handover was complete. The Anbu vanished into the courtyard. When Saku returned to the hall, the music and dance had stopped at some point. The dancers knelt on the ground, their bodies glistening with fragrant sweat, not daring to lift their heads. Arashi was staring at the lead dancer with interest, his gaze openly possessive. Daimyo-sama. Saku stepped forward quietly and offered the bamboo tube. Arashi didn't take it, only asked, from Konoha. Yes. Tell me, what interesting news is there? Saku opened the tube, quickly read through the secret letter, and reported concisely, Minato Namikaze has fully carried out your will, implementing the genius cultivation program and the selection of the 12 guardian ninja. The results are even better than expected. Oh, hearing that, Arashi finally sat up straight, his eyes regaining their sharpness. Let me see. Yes. Saku handed the note over. The information was far more detailed than what Saku had summarized. It recorded how Uchiha Fugaku spoke eloquently, how Hyuga Hiyashi schemed in secret, and the attitudes of the Ino Shikacho families. Everything was clearly written. But what caught Arashi's interest most was the final paragraph. It described the commotion stirred up in Konoha by the matter of taking concubines. The Uchiha were preparing to select 3 of their most beautiful women. Even clans like the Inuzuka and Aburame, usually indifferent to such things, were stirred into action. Reading this, Arashi was first surprised, then burst out laughing. He remembered. At the court assembly that day, one minister had suggested the idea of taking concubines to curry favor. He hadn't taken it seriously at the time, only thinking it a gesture to please the people, and casually agreed. Unexpectedly, that seemingly trivial decision, which he had nearly forgotten, became the final spark that shattered Konoha's balance. No wonder the changes in Konoha were so drastic. The genius cultivation program had sown division. The 12 guardian ninja consolidated power. And those simple words, taking concubines, struck directly at the lifeblood of every ninja clan, bloodline and legacy. It became the strongest catalyst, igniting all the conflicts he had already set in motion. In this world, the hardest thing to resist is never some earth-shattering scheme. It is the primal desires and fears that lie deep within the human heart. This sword called Konoha, he had thought it would take great effort to seize it from Hiruzen Sarutobi and the other elders. Now it seemed it wouldn't take long at all. Arashi tossed the secret letter aside. Saku caught it and destroyed it with a fire release technique. Arashi rose slowly, pacing in the hall, lost in thought. Then he walked to the lead dancer, crouched down, and lifted her chin, making her look up. Tell me, with your beauty, do you think you could enter my harem? The dancer, trembling, replied softly, this concubine dares not speak presumptuously. It is for Daimyo-sama to decide. Ha ha ha. Arashi burst into laughter. General. Jen hurried in. Your subordinate is here. Since everyone is so enthusiastic about the matter of concubines, if I don't handle it properly, wouldn't I be letting down their goodwill? A faint smile curved Arashi's lips. Pass on my order. Announce it throughout the entire Land of Fire. All citizens of the Land of Fire, whether nobles, ninja, or civilians, if they have an unmarried daughter of good character and appearance, they may participate. Jen's expression brightened, and he immediately accepted the command. Yes, that his lord was willing to take concubines was something that delighted him. Because it meant that the future heir would soon be born. Arashi stood with his hands behind his back, his gaze distant. He didn't care whether the ninja clans would send their daughters. What he cared about were the noble families of the Fire Capital. This would be a game of division and allegiance. The internal situation was about to stabilize. In that case, it was time to address matters concerning the Land of Lightning. Also, notify Minister of Finance Tanaka Shigeru to come to my study tomorrow morning. Yes. Jen bowed and left. Arashi gestured for Saku to sit, then called to the musicians and dancers still kneeling on the floor. What are you waiting for? Keep playing the music and keep dancing. To be continued. Chapter 32. On top of the world. The night passed quietly, filled only with the pleasant sound of applause echoing through half the night. When the first ray of morning sunlight shone through, Arashi woke up. The Harem beside him was still sleeping soundly, her black hair scattered across the brocade quilt, her cheeks flushed. Like a flower glistening with morning dew. Arashi's gaze lingered briefly on her curves before becoming calm again. Last night's intimacy had been delightful, but nothing more. He got out of bed, his bare feet touching the cold, smooth tiles. The maids waiting outside entered quietly, their heads bowed, their movements graceful and silent. One brought a hot towel, another clear salt water. Arashi spread his arms slightly, allowing them to dress him. Throughout the entire process, only the faint rustle of fabric could be heard. By the time he had finished washing and was seated at the dining table, the Harem had slowly woken. Seeing Arashi already seated, her expression turned flustered, and she hurried to get up and bow. No need. Arashi's tone was faint. Your dance was good. You will be rewarded. General will arrange your residence. He did not look back, only waved his hand. The Harem froze for a moment, then her face brightened with joy. She knew she had caught the daimyo's attention. She knelt respectfully, kowtowed, and quietly withdrew with the maids. After breakfast, Arashi strolled to the study. He stood before the enormous map of the ninja world, hands clasped behind his back. In his mind, the results of the system's deductions from several days ago began to evolve into specific strategies. Economic influence and military deterrence. That was the strategic guideline given by the sandbox. But it only provided direction, not the means of execution. The execution, however, was the real test. Arashi pondered. The land of earth was harsh and cold, and the land of wind was barren. These two nations had a natural hunger for foreign goods. But simply selling them food and weapons would be strengthening the enemy. It had to be something non-essential yet irresistibly tempting. Something that would rot them from within. Arashi's thoughts gradually became clearer, as if he could already see the future. In the cold stone palaces of Iowa, soft carpets from the land of fire would be spread. On a wind-swept afternoon in Suna, nobles would sip sweet black tea they had never tasted before. Once they grew accustomed to such luxuries, they would never return to their former lives. If the strategy worked, Iowa and Suna's economic dependence on the land of fire would grow immensely, and their upper classes would become deeply tied to it. When the seeds of desire sprouted, they would willingly become pawns in his hands, all to preserve their luxury. Arashi took a sip of warm tea. Everything was ready, only lacking an obedient executor. A knock came at the study door. "Come in." Jen pushed the door open and bowed. "Daimyo-sama, Tanaka Shigeru requests an audience." "Let him in." Arashi sat back, his expression returning to a lazy calm. Soon, the slightly plump Tanaka Shigeru entered, dressed particularly formally. "Greetings, Daimyo-sama." He knelt low, performing a deep bow. "Rise, and be seated." "Thank you, Daimyo-sama." Tanaka sat carefully, his posture humble, then presented a scroll. "Reporting to Daimyo-sama, this is the preliminary budget plan for the concubine selection ceremony. Please review it." Arashi waved a hand. "For such minor matters, you and Jen can handle them. You don't need to ask me about everything." "Yes, this official understands." Tanaka quickly retracted the scroll. Arashi spoke directly. "I called you here to discuss something else." Tanaka straightened immediately. "Please instruct, Daimyo-sama. The war has ended. The country must recover, and the people must live in peace. I intend to strengthen trade relations with Iowa and Suna. What do you think we should sell them?" Tanaka's mind raced. Strengthen trade with Iowa and Suna. Why these two nations in particular? What about Kumo and Kiri? Years in politics had honed his instincts. Something about this felt deliberate. He thought for a moment before replying cautiously, "Daimyo-sama is wise. Post-war reconstruction and mutual trade are indeed the best ways to enrich the nation and benefit the people. Iowa is cold and harsh, and Suna is barren. If we sell them grain and cloth in exchange for ore and local products, it would be a win-win situation." Arashi chuckled softly. The light laugh made Tanaka's heart sink. He had said the wrong thing. "Tanaka," Arashi said calmly, "you are good with finances, but your vision is too narrow. We cannot sell too much grain or cloth. If we give them too much, they will be full and warm, and then they will have the strength to pick up weapons again. We want to make money, not strengthen them. Do you understand?" Tanaka immediately understood. The daimyo's goal was not simple trade at all. This was a grand strategy, a terrifyingly elegant one that used economics as a weapon. And his earlier suggestion now seemed childish. He sat frozen, his thoughts spinning. Not food or cloth. Not strengthening, but weakening through desire. A flash of inspiration struck him. Luxury goods. Silk, porcelain, tea, fine wine. The unique luxuries of the land of fire. This official understands. I know what we should sell now. The trade of grain and cloth can remain symbolic, but what we truly need to sell are those things they lack, yet can never abandon once they have them. Like silk. Which noble lady in Iowa or Suna wouldn't crave beautiful clothes? Who would want to face stone and sand forever? And our porcelain. They'll need exquisite tea sets to flaunt their status. Oh, and sugar. No one can resist sweetness. Once people taste it, they'll never return to bitter lives. We have endless supplies, and they can only buy them with money. Tanaka spoke faster, growing excited. He felt as though he had stepped into a new world. These luxuries were beautiful poisons, intoxicating and corrupting. They wouldn't make a nation stronger, only weaker, consumed by indulgence. Arashi listened quietly, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Good. This old man was still useful. Just as Tanaka thought he had grasped everything, Arashi asked lightly. Speaking of which, Kumo still refuses to sign the peace treaty. They really are a bunch of fools with only muscles for brains. A pity. With so many good things, they won't have the fortune to enjoy them. That one sentence made Tanaka freeze. Strengthening trade with Iwa and Suna, excluding Kumo, corrupting their elites through luxury, tying them to fire's wealth, all the clues clicked into place. The goal was isolation, to strangle Kumo economically. This daimyo had no intention of true peace. He would use money and trade to choke Kumo to death outside the battlefield. Tanaka didn't even dare breathe too loudly. Then another thought hit him. Iwa, Suna, Kumo, what about Kiri? He gathered his courage. Then, Daimyo-sama, what should we do about Kiri? What do you think? Arashi returned the question. Tanaka froze, then sank into thought again. Kiri, the hidden mist village, was mired in civil war, closed off from the world. A nation consumed by internal strife, too busy with itself to interfere. The current greatest threat to the land of fire was Kumo, not Kiri. His thoughts aligned, and he bowed. This official understands. Kiri is deeply trapped in the blood mist conflict and cannot interfere with us, nor can it be a useful ally. Our main target is Kumo. We should avoid creating new problems. With Kiri, we only need to maintain the status quo, keeping minimal trade, neither helping nor hindering it. Arashi was finally satisfied. Then proceed. Draft a detailed trade list and implementation plan. To improve efficiency, you will head a new department, the Foreign Trade Promotion Department, to handle all related affairs. He had bet correctly. Tanaka was overjoyed and quickly accepted. Oh, and, Arashi added casually, I have some promising young people skilled in economics. They'll join the department as your deputies to gain experience. Yes, Daimyo-sama. This official obeys. He understood. These were the daimyo's confidants. But he felt no resentment, only relief. It meant the daimyo still valued him. You may withdraw. This official takes his leave. Tanaka bowed deeply and left the study. Only Arashi remained. He slowly stood and walked to the enormous map. His gaze fell on the land of lightning, eyes gleaming with conquest. To be continued. Chapter 33. The Decree. The decree from the daimyo manor regarding the selection of consorts spread throughout the entire land of fire. The decree mentioned no coercion. Instead, it was issued under the name of celebrating the new ruler's ascension, praying for national prosperity, and extending the land's fortune. The wording was elegant and sincere. It stated that the daimyo, grateful for his people's support, wished to share his glory with all. Therefore, this selection was not limited to nobles but open to the entire land of fire. Any woman at least 18 years old, unmarried, and of good character and appearance, regardless of her background, could voluntarily participate. Once selected, she would gain great honor, and her family would receive generous rewards and protection. It did not seem like a consort selection. It was more like a festival that could change one's destiny. On the day the decree was issued, the fire capital completely erupted. In every street, alley, tavern, and tea house, chatter filled the air. Did you hear? Even civilians can join the consort selection. If our daughter is chosen, she'll be set for life. My second daughter is absolutely beautiful. Your second daughter? The one who looks a bit like your neighbor Watanabe? Yes, that's her. It's strange, actually. The common folks' conversations were simple and enthusiastic. Though mixed with jokes and gossip, they saw it as proof of the daimyo's kindness. But inside the noble estates, the atmosphere was very different. The noble families of the fire capital all held urgent meetings at once. They understood what this really meant. This was not merely a consort selection, but an invitation to political alignment. We must choose the most outstanding daughter from our clan. This is our chance for a century of prosperity. The rewards don't matter. Forming a bloodline connection with the daimyo is a priceless treasure. Countless greedy eyes focused on this grand event. If possible, they all wanted their family's daughter to become the daimyo's lady. While the outside world was in chaos, the daimyo manor remained calm. In the study, Arashi leaned by the window, leisurely sipping tea while listening to Gen's report. Daimyo-sama, several nobles have already sent portraits of their daughters. They've been compiled into a booklet. Gen's tone carried excitement. To him, his lord expanding his harem and having more descendants was a great blessing. Very good. Arashi put down his teacup, then suddenly asked, Gen, do you think I truly lack women? Gen froze, unsure why his lord would ask that, and could only bow respectfully. Daimyo-sama's grace is unmatched. All women in the world are drawn to him. You flatter me. Arashi shook his head slightly. What I lack is not women, but an opportunity to see people clearly. His gaze fell on the streets below, where people bustled about with hidden motives. In this consort selection, appearance and talent are secondary. This is a large-scale loyalty test, a mirror to expose every hidden monster and schemer. Arashi turned, his eyes sharp. Abolish the previous selection criteria. I have only one requirement now. Investigate the families behind the candidates. Their loyalty, ambition, and usefulness, these are what matter. As for the candidates themselves. He paused, a playful smile curving his lips. What I want are vases. The more exquisite, the more they only know how to please me, the better. The simpler, the better. Gen looked puzzled. Arashi saw through his thoughts and explained calmly. An ambitious, capable woman will think and scheme, bringing unnecessary trouble. And I hate trouble. A beautiful vase, however, binds the family behind her to my side. What I need is loyalty and control, not a bedmate with ulterior motives. Do you understand? Gen immediately understood. So, behind this consort selection, there was far more at play. This servant understands. Oh, and one more thing. Arashi suddenly gave another order. Issue a joint command to the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Conduct a full tax audit of all Hyuga clan properties in the fire capital. I want to know if every single ryo they own is clean. The order came abruptly. It wasn't because the Hyuga clan had refused to send a family member to participate. It was because of their subtle hostility toward him. They needed to be taught a lesson. As one of Konoha's top noble families, the Hyuga owned vast property in the fire capital, the source of their clan's wealth. This audit would not bankrupt them, but it would be a deep humiliation. Through this, Arashi sent them a message. Your hesitation will cost you your dignity. Either kneel, or be crushed. Yes. Gen bowed deeply and left in a hurry. Arashi sat back in his chair. He knew Hyuga Hiyashi would understand this warning clearly. At the same time this order spread. Inside the guest house in the fire capital, Minister of Finance Tanaka Shigeru was hosting envoys from Iwa and Suna. This time, Tanaka did not take them to the lavish noble districts. Instead, he led them through several ordinary streets. There, they saw a different side of the fire capital. The air was filled with genuine laughter from the people. Please look, honored guests, Tanaka said, pointing to a busy fabric shop with a smile. The owner was once a genin from Konoha. He was wounded in the leg during the last war and could no longer serve. It was Daimyo-sama who created the Disabled Ninja Support Program, allowing him to receive an interest-free loan and open this shop. The shop owner noticed Tanaka from afar and hurried over, bowing deeply with heartfelt gratitude. Lord Tanaka. His sincerity was unmistakable. After that, Tanaka led the envoys past a tea house. Inside, civilians and ninja chatted about the consort selection ceremony, their expressions filled with excitement and support. The two envoys' polite smiles grew stiff. They exchanged silent glances, unease flickering in their eyes. The true power of the Land of Fire was not just its wealth, but its unity. The evening banquet further magnified that unseen pressure. There was no music or entertainment. The envoy from Iowa picked up a white porcelain teacup. It felt light and delicate in his hand. A soft fragrance wafted into his nose. He took a sip, finding the tea smooth and sweet in its aftertaste. It reminded him of the moss tea treasured by his daimyo. That tea had a rough texture and a faint earthy smell. Compared to this, it was like heaven and earth. The envoy from Suna subtly clutched the napkin beside him. Smooth silk, fine and soft to the touch. In Suna, such fabric would drive noble ladies mad with envy. Even their daimyo's banquets used only coarse linen. But here, it was just a disposable napkin. Such extravagance made his heart race. What shocked them most was the sugar. When desserts drizzled with syrup were served, both envoys froze for a moment. In their nations, sweetness could only come from honey or fruit syrup, both scarce and seasonal luxuries. But here, judging by Tanaka's relaxed demeanor, sugar seemed common. Tanaka raised his cup cheerfully, smiling. He did not mention trade at all, speaking only about Daimyo-sama's devotion to peace and concern for the people. Honored guests, after such a long journey, you are the most distinguished visitors of our Land of Fire. Our Daimyo-sama often says that war brings only ruin, while prosperity is born from peace and exchange. Then he subtly shifted his tone. Therefore, Daimyo-sama has instructed me to seek deeper cultural exchanges with your nations, to strengthen the friendship between our three countries. Cultural exchange. The envoys' hearts trembled. They were no fools. Behind Tanaka's warm smile hid a cunning snare. As soon as the banquet ended, the two envoys returned to their rooms and immediately sent urgent reports back to their homelands, detailing everything they had seen, heard, and felt that day, along with Tanaka's meaningful words. To be continued. Chapter 34. Goodbye former me. Fire Capital, Underground Black Market. In the dark, damp passageway, the stench of rust, cheap liquor, and sweat mixed into an unbearable odor. May lowered her straw hat, letting her wide robe hide her alluring figure. Her emerald eyes cautiously scanned every shadow. This was her last hope, her final gamble for the resistance army. As a representative of the Hidden Mist resistance, she had risked everything to infiltrate the Fire Capital, bringing all of their remaining funds to purchase food and medical supplies for the Dawn operation. But reality struck her hard. What did you say? Triple. May's voice was low and restrained. It wasn't this price half a month ago. Behind the counter, a merchant selling military ration pills picked his teeth with a sneer. What year do you think it is? Right now, the Land of Fire is hiring like crazy. Wages are going up every day. Even moving bricks pays better than being a ninja. Everyone's got money now, so how could prices not rise? The merchant spat out his toothpick, his tone impatient. That's the price. Buy or don't. There's a line behind you, so stop wasting my time. May clenched the money pouch in her sleeve. The metallic touch bit into her palm. Undeterred, she went to several other shady shops. But the results were all the same. The prices for all necessary supplies had skyrocketed. Her funds could barely purchase a third of what was planned. The Dawn operation had been in preparation for a year, meant to rescue the families of captured comrades. Without enough supplies, the operation would fail, and those people would die. A middle-aged merchant, slightly kinder than the rest, noticed her pale face and sighed. Girl, stop trying. The current daimyo is like a living god. He's reduced taxes, supports wounded ninja, and even started something called the Civilian Genius Cultivation Program. In the Land of Fire, as long as you're willing to work, you'll never starve. Soon, there won't be anyone left doing this kind of black market business. The man's comforting words were like knives, cutting deeper and deeper into May's heart. She walked out of the black market, the sudden sunlight blinding her eyes. The wide streets were clean. The air smelled of roasted meat and sweet pastries, a sharp contrast to the stench of the underground market. People on the streets wore new clothes, their faces full of real smiles. A group of children ran past, laughing, holding candied hawthorns glistening in the sun. The bright red color pierced her heart. She remembered the hidden mist village, shrouded in a haze of blood. Children there only smiled during the graduation exam, that twisted smile that came when they drove a kunai into a comrade's chest. But here in the land of fire, smiles were free, everywhere. In front of a fabric shop, a man with a crippled leg stood proudly with his wife, showing his neighbors the pension he had received. At a tea house, people crowded together, talking loudly about the daimyo. Did you hear? Even civilians can receive funding from the Genius Cultivation Program. Daimyo-sama truly cares about us commoners. Every word of praise was like a silent mockery of her homeland's misery. She had always believed that all rulers were the same, cruel, selfish, and indifferent, differing only in how they showed it. She had believed that only rebellion, only blood and sacrifice, could bring peace. But everything she saw now left her shaken. A nation could be like this. It could be prosperous, peaceful, and full of hope under a wise ruler. People didn't have to live in fear. They could follow their leader toward a better life. The realization struck harder than any failure. She stumbled toward the river, gripping the railing, breathing heavily. The reflection in the water showed her pale face and her emerald eyes filled with confusion. Why? Why was the land of fire like this, while her homeland was hell? She thought of her childhood friend, the gentle boy who once cried over an injured bird. He had once told her, smiling, that when the war was over, he would take her to watch the sunrise over the sea. But because he possessed a keke genke, he and his family were slaughtered like animals. The last thing she saw was his mutilated body. Not even a whole corpse remained. Hatred and grief surged in her chest. Yugura Karataki must die. The blood mist tyranny must be destroyed. Even if it cost her life. But when she touched the nearly empty money pouch, despair returned. Without supplies, the dawn operation would fail. Failure meant her comrades would die. She could not accept that. She would rather die herself than see them die for nothing. May's gaze shifted from confusion to pain, and from pain to resolve. If death held no meaning, what was her pride worth? She recalled what she had heard earlier about the daimyo's concubine selection. If her body and beauty were the only weapons left to her, then why not use them? A mad idea took root in her mind and quickly consumed her. Concubine selection. The daimyo was choosing consorts, and the decree said anyone could apply. If selected, their families would receive great rewards. Rewards. If she were chosen, she didn't care about glory or title. She wanted money. Enough money to buy 10 times, even 100 times, the supplies they needed. If she had to trade her dignity to save her comrades and the hidden mist village, then so be it. That was a trade worth making. Once the thought appeared, it could not be stopped. Humiliation, disgust, and self-loathing flooded her. She could almost feel a stranger's hand judging her body. Her stomach churned, and she nearly vomited. But the faces of her comrades, full of faith, and the dying eyes of that boy burned in her mind. Her weakness turned to fire. Pride, dignity. Before the future of her village, they were meaningless. She straightened, wiping the tears from her eyes. When she looked up again, there was no confusion left in her emerald eyes, only fierce determination. She tore off her loose robe, revealing a blue dress that traced her perfect figure. She combed her long brown hair and let it fall to one side of her face, leaving a hint of mystery and charm. Looking at her reflection in the river, she gave a bitter smile. Daimyo of the land of fire, for the hidden mist, I will give everything I have. I hope you can bear the cost. She turned away, no longer looking at the light and prosperity behind her. Resolutely, she walked toward the direction of the concubine selection registration. With every step, her heart ached a little more. but her back remained straight. To be continued. Chapter 35. Broken Mist Flower. The corridor was long and silent. May followed behind a maid, the sound of her wooden clogs echoing softly against the polished floor. The maid maintained a distance of 3 steps from her at all times. She neither spoke nor looked around. Like a lifeless doll, every movement was precise and rigid. That extreme adherence to form itself became a kind of invisible pressure. Finally, the maid stopped before a door with no markings. She did not open it, only turned to the side and made a slight bowing gesture. Please enter. Someone is waiting for you. May's heart tightened. Was she going to meet that man already? She steadied her breathing, forcing her heart to calm. More than a dozen plans flashed through her mind. Probing conversation, sudden attack, even the desperate resolve to die together. But when her hand touched the cold door knocker, she extinguished every one of those thoughts herself. It was useless. She had seen the Anbu during the enthronement ceremony. In the fire capital, in this man's palace, any resistance was laughable. She pushed open the door. Inside, there was none of the luxury she had imagined. It was empty. The walls were dull gray, the air thick with the mixed scent of herbs and aged wood. In the center stood 3 old women dressed in dark kimonos. Their hair was white, faces wrinkled, and expressions solemn. As May entered, the heavy wooden door behind her slowly closed. Click. The soft sound of the lock falling made her pulse quicken. Her emerald eyes tightened, and her hand instinctively reached for her back. It was empty. Only then did she remember that all her weapons had been confiscated before entry. No need to be nervous. The leading old woman finally spoke, her voice dry, like leaves rubbing together. We are simply following orders. Another old woman stepped forward, holding a wooden tray. On it lay a ruler, a measuring tape, and a thick booklet. There are rules for the consort selection. There is a system for entering the palace. Before you meet Daimyo-sama, you must undergo a full examination. The color drained from May's face. She was not naive. She knew exactly what examination meant. Take off your clothes. All of them. The old woman's tone was calm, almost casual. But the words hit May like a blade. Humiliation and rage surged through her. She was the leader of the Hidden Mist Resistance. An elite Jonin who had mastered 2 Kekkei Genkai. She had waded through seas of blood, snapped the necks of countless enemies. And now she was being treated like an object, to be inspected. What if I refuse? Her voice was cold, trembling slightly even as she spoke. A ripple finally appeared in the old woman's eyes. Not surprise, not anger. Pity. Girl, think carefully. Once this door closes, there's no turning back. If you refuse now, we won't force you. We'll just escort you out. But everything you seek will vanish with that choice. Her words were calm, but each syllable pressed heavier on May's chest. She clenched her fists, her nails cutting deep into her palms. The pain helped her stay clear-headed. She thought of her comrades still fighting in the blood mist. She thought of her ruined, suffering homeland. She was their hope. If she turned back here, what would their sacrifices mean? May slowly opened her fists. The fragile pride in her heart was crushed, turned to dust beneath the weight of duty. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the anger and resistance were gone. What remained was acceptance and sacrifice. Her trembling fingers moved to untie the sash at her waist. The blue dress slipped down, pooling around her feet. Then the undergarments. One by one. Her figure was flawless, every line perfect. An ounce more would be excess, an ounce less too thin. The old woman's eyes passed over her inch by inch. There was no admiration, only evaluation. Turn around. The dry voice sounded again. May's body stiffened, but she obeyed. A cold sensation touched her back. The wooden ruler. The old woman moved it down her spine, section by section, professional and precise. Bones straight. No old injuries. Then came the tape measure, brushing against her skin. A chill made goosebumps rise across her body. Shoulder width, arm length, waist circumference, hip circumference, leg length. One measured while another recorded in the booklet. The process dragged on endlessly. From height and weight to finger length, even the thickness of her hair was noted. She forced herself to detach. To empty her mind. She recalled her clumsy first attempts at chakra control. The joy of her first completed mission. The laughter of comrades drinking under the sunset. Those memories were her only defense. All right, lie face down on that couch. The voice snapped her back to reality. She turned her head and saw a narrow couch in the corner, covered with a white cloth. Her heart sank. Her worst fear had come. She didn't move. Her feet felt rooted to the ground. Girl. There was impatience in the old woman's tone now. Don't waste everyone's time. May bit her lip until she tasted blood. She knew she had no choice. Step by step, she moved forward, her motions mechanical. When she lay face down on the couch, hot tears slid down her cheeks uncontrollably. Nausea and shame filled her chest. Her instincts screamed to resist. But a hand, cold and heavy, pressed against her back. She wanted to fight, but she couldn't. Time crawled. Each second was torture. Her mind went blank. All her pride and strength turned to ash. She didn't know how long it lasted. The hand finally lifted. Intact. No body odor. Good condition. Very clean. The old woman wiped her hands with a white cloth and gave her verdict flatly. Get up. Put your clothes on. Someone will take you to see Lord General. The three old women packed up their things and exited through a hidden door without another glance. Only May remained. She lay on the couch, unmoving. Her blank eyes stared at the floor. There lay her tears. And her shattered dignity. While May was still gathering her shattered dignity, Minato was also waiting for the daimyo's summons. Unlike before, Minato wore the Hokage's ceremonial robe today, symbolizing his position. His golden hair was still striking, and his deep blue eyes were calm. He did not even have a guard announce him. He simply stood quietly outside the study, waiting. His posture was not like that of the fourth Hokage famed across the ninja world, but like an ordinary subject awaiting his monarch's call. When he entered, he stopped 3 steps from the desk. Then he bowed at a 90-degree angle. Daimyo-sama. The address had not changed. However, the usual reserve and aloofness of the Hokage in his tone were gone. Arashi leaned back in his chair, tapping the armrest. He did not tell Minato to rise, nor did he speak. Silence was a monarch's best weapon. It applied pressure and revealed much. The study was silent. Minato maintained his bow, perfectly still, his fringe shadowing his eyes, hiding his expression. The sharp aura that usually surrounded him had been reined in. He was like a sheathed sword. After an unknown time, Arashi spoke. Have you come to your senses? Yes, I have. Rise. Tell me how you came to your senses. Minato straightened, meeting Arashi's gaze openly. I previously, always considered matters from Konoha's perspective. My thinking was narrow, and I failed to live up to Daimyo-sama's expectations. Oh. Arashi leaned forward slightly, interest piqued. Then what perspective are you taking now? Minato drew a deep breath, his expression solemn. The land of fire. The 3 words landed heavily. He continued, from now on, Konoha's interests will fully serve the overall interests of the land of fire. Konoha is the Konoha of the land of fire. This statement was a belated pledge of allegiance. It meant Minato, the 4th Hokage, had completely submitted to the daimyo in spirit. Arashi's smile widened. This was better than he expected. A Hokage with a broken spine was a puppet. A Hokage who actively embraced his ideals was a useful tool. Very good. Arashi finally spoke with approval. Sit, Minato. Tell me your new plan. Yes. Minato sat as instructed, took out a scroll, and presented it with both hands. There was no pretense of equality now, only a subordinate reporting to a superior. Regarding the Genius Cultivation Special Fund, this subordinate believes Daimyo-sama's approach is entirely correct. Concentrating resources to cultivate top-tier combat power is indeed the best way to enhance the Land of Fire's deterrence in the short term. However, simple financial assistance can easily lead young ninja astray with power and wealth, making them forget their original intention to fight. He looked up, eyes sincere and pleading. Therefore, I propose upgrading the Genius Cultivation Program to the Will of Fire Legacy Program. Will of Fire. Arashi savored the words. Continue. Minato continued, selected geniuses will not only receive funds and resources, but must also accept one-on-one mentorship. The mentors will be the most experienced and resolute Jonin in the village. Their responsibility is to teach these geniuses how to wield power correctly, guide them to dedicate themselves to the country, and make them understand the responsibility that comes with power. This fund is for shaping their strength, but even more, for shaping their spirit. Minato glanced at Arashi. Seeing no objection, his heart eased slightly. As for the selection of the 12 guardian ninja, this subordinate suggests an open competition for all ninja in the village. Regardless of origin or background, only loyalty and strength will matter. The 12 final winners will represent Konoha, becoming the sharpest swords in Daimyo-sama's hand, and the supreme honor of the Land of Fire. This will let all ninjas see a fair path to advancement and maximize potential, selecting the strongest warriors for you. He finished and looked at Arashi expectantly. Arashi did not answer immediately. He picked up the plan and flipped through it page by page. The handwriting was neat, the organization clear, with detailed contingencies for selection rules and mentor screening. It was evident Minato had not rested much while drafting this. All of his struggle had gone into this scroll. Minato's heart tightened. He did not know if the daimyo would tolerate his hidden intention, to bind genius cultivation to the will of fire. It was the last line he could hold as Hokage. After a long time, Arashi closed the scroll and set it on the desk. The plan is good. He looked at Minato, his gaze unreadable, as if to see through him. Minato, you are very clever. You know what I want, and what you want to preserve. You are trying to find a balance within my rules, one you can accept. Minato's heart sank. As expected, his intentions could not escape this monarch. However, Arashi's tone shifted, a playful expression returning. I like clever subordinates. Working with clever people is efficient. He picked up the imperial brush, dipped it in cinnabar, and signed the cover with bold, flowing strokes. It will be done as you say. I have only one requirement. Arashi's voice grew heavier. The mentor list for the Will of Fire Legacy Program. The final list of selected geniuses. And the selection results for the 12 Guardian Ninja. All must be reviewed and ultimately approved by me. He paused, then spoke clearly. Their power is bestowed by me. Their loyalty can only belong to me, to the Land of Fire. As for that Will of Fire you mentioned. Arashi leaned back, arms folded, calmly watching Minato. From today, my will is the Will of Fire. Do you understand? Arashi had agreed to the plan. Minato should have been pleased, but he was not. Because with one sentence, the daimyo had taken the soul of the plan. The daimyo's will was the Will of Fire. It was a final warning, the ultimate declaration of power. All his struggle, effort, and compromise turned to dust in that moment. What he tried to protect would exist only under a new name. A name belonging to the daimyo. Minato slowly closed his eyes. When he opened them, the last flicker of Hokage's light in his blue eyes had gone out. He stood again, removed the ceremonial robe, revealing his ninja uniform. He folded the robe neatly and placed it aside. Then he knelt on one knee, without hesitation. This time, it was a subject's etiquette to his monarch. From today, Konoha will no longer have a Hokage. Only Minato Namikaze, Supreme Commander of Konoha under the daimyo of the Land of Fire. In that moment, an era ended completely. Arashi finally smiled with satisfaction. No, you are still the Hokage. He generously returned the title. Because Hokage was just a name now. Thank you, Daimyo-sama. Ding. Target. Minato Namikaze. Loyalty. 85, loyal and reliable. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden quest, the Hokage's demise. You have completely subdued the 4th Hokage, and Konoha, this sharpest sword, is now in your hands. Reward. National Luck 500. Very good. Arashi looked at the man kneeling before him, mood light. Rise, 4th Hokage. From today, you will have a bigger stage. He picked up the ceremonial robe and personally draped it over Minato. The future of the Land of Fire needs your Flying Thunder God technique. To be continued. Chapter 37. Fanatical Uchiha. Minato Namikaze left. The hem of his ceremonial robe swayed in the wind. His back remained straight and tall. But Arashi knew the Hokage's flagpole had broken. And he had personally mended it, shaping it into the form he desired. Konoha. The Land of Fire's sharpest blade. From today on, both the hilt and the blade were firmly in his grasp. Only, some blades still needed a bit of sharpening. Arashi leaned back against the armrest, tapping lightly. Tap, tap, tap. Contentment. Satisfaction. To see the protagonist of an era, the hero of a world, kneel before him in heartfelt submission, this feeling was 100 times more wonderful than crushing him with the power of the 6 paths. Power was the confidence to overturn the table. Authority was the utensil for enjoying the good things in this world. Konoha Village. Uchiha clan territory. The sharp whistling of shuriken on the training grounds and the dull thuds of sparring had vanished. In their place came the sound of a zither and soft singing. 3 Uchiha maidens, dressed in simple kimonos, knelt on cushions. They kept their heads lowered, their expression solemn. Makoto sat at the head. Her face was gentle, but her eyes were cold as iron. She personally instructed the girls. A flicker of the eye. A turn of the wrist. Any slight mistake drew her merciless reprimand. This was no longer a consort selection. This was a rigorous screening for the Uchiha, no. This was for the future mother of the nation of the Land of Fire. Ragyo. Makoto's voice was soft, yet it made one maiden in the room tremble. That girl resembled her 7 or 8 tenths. Her features were more youthful, with a trace of innocent charm still in her eyes. She was Makoto's younger sister, Ragyo. Sister. Ragyo stood, nervously twisting her sleeve, her head bowed even lower. Your heart is not calm. Makoto lifted the tea Ragyo had just brewed, but did not drink. She only smelled it. The fragrance floats on the surface. It will be bitter when tasted. Ragyo's cheeks flushed. She murmured, I am just a little nervous, sister. Nervous. Makoto set the cup down gently, but her expression was icy. In the future, in front of Daimyo-sama, will you also say you are nervous? One mistake will not ruin only you, but the entire Uchiha clan. Can your life pay for that responsibility? The last sentence was a sharp rebuke. Ragyo's lips trembled, her face turned pale, and she could not speak. The other maidens even softened their breathing. Seeing her sister's distress, reluctance flickered through Makoto's heart, but resolve quickly replaced it. She walked up and straightened Ragyo's slightly disheveled collar. Ragyo, remember this. From the moment you stepped in here, your name ceased to matter. You are the future of the Uchiha clan. Her hand gently caressed her sister's face, so similar to her own, her eyes filled with complex emotion. Go and meditate beneath the backyard waterfall. When your heart is colder than pond ice, come see me again. Yes, sister. With tears in her eyes, Ragyo bowed and withdrew, her slender back seeming as if it might collapse at any moment. Watching her sister's retreating figure, Makoto's eyes turned distant. How could she not know how cruel this was? But she had no choice. Compared to the future glory of the Uchiha, a girl's tears were insignificant. Just then, clan head Fugaku stepped in from outside. He glanced over the room, satisfaction in his eyes, and nodded to Makoto. You've worked hard. For the clan. Makoto replied coolly. Fugaku moved beside her and lowered his voice. There is still no movement from the Hyuga. As expected, Makoto's tone was calm. The arrogance of the Hyuga is engraved in their bones. HMPH, foolish arrogance. Fugaku snorted. Does he think it is still the past? In Daimyo-sama's eyes, his Hyuga are no different from stray dogs on the roadside. He paused, a ruthless glint flashing in his eyes. However, That is perfect. The more stubborn the Hyuga are, the more our Uchiha loyalty stands out. I have already sent the ledgers of all Hyuga tax evasion and illegal operations in the fire capital to the daimyo manor. This was the Uchiha pledge of allegiance. A flicker of unusual emotion crossed Makoto's eyes. What about the Ino Cho families? They are cunning. Fugaku's tone dripped with disdain. They say they will wait for Daimyo-sama's orders. They will regret it. Makoto lifted her gaze toward the direction of the fire capital. When a child of the daimyo, bearing Uchiha blood, is born, our clan will become truly eminent. Hearing this, Fugaku's eyes blazed. Yes, that day would not be far. Compared to the busy Uchiha compound, the Hyuga main house was eerily silent. Smash! A valuable Celadon cup shattered on the floor. Hiyashi's chest heaved, his face ashen, the veins at the corners of his eyes bulging with rage. The tax official from the daimyo manor had just left. They had said little, only that a decision must be made quickly. Otherwise, all back taxes from the past 10 years must be repaid, plus a threefold fine. That astronomical figure could wipe out centuries of Hyuga wealth in an instant. This was not an audit. This was extortion. Too much. Too much. Hiyashi roared. In front of him, several main family elders kept silent, not daring to breathe loudly. Clan head, what should we do? An elder stammered. You want me to send Hyuga daughters into that place as well? Hiyashi turned, his pure white eyes bloodshot, glaring at the elder. I am telling you, even if the Hyuga fight to the last person and shed the last drop of blood, we will never endure such humiliation. The roar echoed through the empty room. Only, it sounded more like a lament. At the daimyo manor's concubine selection registration point in Konoha, another scene unfolded. It was already overflowing with people. The enthusiasm of the commoners was simple and direct. To them, this was a true path that could change their fate. At the edge of the crowd, several figures stood out. The Inuzuka representative sat beside a ninja dog, eyes scanning the crowd. The Aburame representative was wrapped in a trench coat, with a few insects fluttering restlessly. And the Kurama representative stood by as well. Beside each of them stood a beautiful young maiden of excellent appearance. These lesser clans did not expect to secure a concubine's position. Even a moment of favor from the daimyo would bring great benefits to their families. This fervor swept through all of Konoha. Even some respected jonin could not stay aloof. And Yuhi Shinku was among them. To be continued. Chapter 38. In the Name of Love. Konoha Village, Training Ground 3. The afterglow of the setting sun stretched the shadows of 3 wooden stakes. Whoosh! The sharp whistle of a shuriken tore the air. It embedded in the bullseye, humming. Kurenai's black hair clung to her cheeks with sweat as she panted, crimson pupils shining with excitement. Genjutsu, mist servant technique. Her figure split into 3. Each clone looked solid, even the unyielding battle intent was identical. She was very satisfied with her current strength. Ever since hearing that the daimyo manor had created a special fund for the genius cultivation program, Kurenai had yearned for that opportunity. She believed she could do it. Konoha's future would be better. That daimyo was not as cold as the rumors claimed. Kurenai. A familiar voice called out. The genjutsu dispersed, and Kurenai turned in surprise. Father. Shinku stood in the shade of a tree, still in his dust-stained standard vest, clearly just back from a mission. His face was stern, but his eyes were gentle. You're back. Was the mission smooth? Her steps were light as she jogged up to him, sweat beading on her forehead, brows lifting in a smile. Shinku answered quietly. His gaze fell to her fingers, chafed from high-intensity hand seals. Distress flickered in his eyes. Still practicing? Yes. Kurenai lifted her chin, proud. Father, my mist servant technique can already create 3 solid entities. Give me a little more time and I will definitely master demonic illusion, tree binding death. She waited eagerly for praise. Like when she was little. But none came. Shinku just watched her silently. No praise, no encouragement. That complicated look made her uneasy. Kurenai. He spoke again, deeper than before. Come with me. Kurenai's joy went out like a flame. She sensed something was wrong. She nodded, reined in her emotions, and followed him home. The house was as tidy as ever. But today, the warmth was gone, replaced by a heavy pressure. Her father did not wipe his ninja tools first as usual. Instead, he knelt at the low table and personally poured her a cup of tea. Steam rose, blurring his face. Father. Kurenai sat opposite him, unease rising. Looking into his daughter's eyes, full of hope for the future, Shinku struggled inwardly. After a long silence, he sighed heavily. He knew every word to come would be his, as her father, crushing his daughter's dream with his own hands. But he had to say it. Kurenai, would you like to live a different kind of life? What do you mean, father? A life without slaughter, where you don't walk the edge of life and death every day. His voice was soft, but it made Kurenai's heart clench. She vaguely guessed, and the color drained from her face. Shinku took out a document from his vest. He said nothing, and slowly pushed it over. It was not a mission scroll. It did not bear the Hokage's seal, but the golden crest of the daimyo manor. Kurenai looked, and when her gaze fell on the words, "Selection of Consorts," at the top, her face went white. Her smile froze. Father, what does this mean? Her voice trembled with disbelief. She did not dare touch the document. The daimyo is selecting consorts, Shinku said, terrifyingly calm. With your beauty and talent, you will surely be chosen. I'm not going. A sharp cry. Kurenai sprang up, voice ringing. I want to be a ninja. I want to become an excellent jonin like you. I want to protect Konoha with my genjutsu. Ninja. A self-mocking smile tugged at Shinku's lips, his laugh weary. Kurenai, what is so good about being a ninja? He held out his hand. A hand full of calluses and scars, one knuckle twisted out of shape. He opened it before her. Look, this is the outcome of a lifetime as a ninja. I do not want you to live this life. His calm tone made Kurenai's heart ache. She knew he was thinking of her. But she could not accept it. But I like being a ninja. Her eyes reddened. Tears welled up, but she held them back stubbornly. This is my dream, and if I am selected for the Genius Cultivation Program, I will become even stronger and bring true glory to the family. She thought. Genius Cultivation Program was her final trump card. It had the daimyo's approval. But her father only shook his head, looking at his innocent daughter with love and reluctance. His words were ice. Glory. Do you think that so-called Genius Cultivation Program is cultivating you? No. Shinku's single sentence shattered all her illusions. Ninja are tools. The so-called Genius Cultivation Program only sharpens the blades for Daimyo-sama. And tools have only two ends. Either they die on the battlefield, or they go dull and get discarded. Look up at Hokage Rock. Look at Lord Third's situation now, and look at Lord Fourth. His voice sank, almost resigned. Even the Hokage can only submit. You, a young girl just showing talent, what do you have to resist? I do not want you to become a tool. Every word nailed down her pride and her dreams. Her ninja heart, too. Tears finally spilled. She choked, unwilling. But that is not the life I want. I do not want that. You have no choice. Shinku's tone hardened. He stood and pressed the application into her cold hands. The paper's edge cut her skin. She looked at her father. At the man who had cherished her since she was small. She did not understand. Why? Why push her away with his own hands? Seeing her tears, Shinku's expression softened. He lifted his rough hand to stroke her head. Halfway, it halted. At last, it fell onto her trembling shoulder. His voice held weariness and pleading. Kurenai, I just cannot bear to see you hurt again. I do not want to collect your cold body from the battlefield one day. I only want you to live safely. In that place, he paused, you will not smell blood anymore, and you will not fear whether you will see tomorrow's sun. That is the life you should live. He withdrew his hand and moved toward the door. Kurenai suddenly noticed his back was no longer straight. Silver strands showed at his temples. She understood. This was not an order. This was the only way out a father chose for his daughter. A path paved by crushing her dreams. To make such a choice, father must have been in great pain. The document in her hands felt heavy as a boulder. Kurenai slowly crouched, burying her face in her knees. Muffled sobs filled the room. Shinku stood at the doorway for a long time. Only when the crying subsided did he walk away. To be continued. Chapter 39. Trade layout for the Land of Thunder. Daimyo Manor, Side Hall. Arashi was enjoying a song and dance performance. Jen suddenly entered with light, quick steps, silently bowed, and stood to the side. Only when the music ended did he speak in a low voice. My lord, there's a situation. Arashi turned his chair, his gaze shifting from the dancing girls. What is it? Reporting, Lord, one of the candidates in this selection, your subordinate finds her suspicious. Suspicious. Arashi's fingers stopped tapping, curiosity flashing in his eyes. Jen was in charge of selecting consorts and also handled a portion of intelligence work. If he found something suspicious, it was likely more than a trivial matter. Tell me about it. Yes. This woman calls herself Shizumi. Her identity papers claim she is the daughter of a ruined merchant family from the southern border who came to the fire capital seeking a future through this selection. The documents themselves are flawless. But the problem is, I've seen her before. Arashi's eyes instantly sharpened. Oh, where have you seen her? As a steward, Jen's memory was reliable. Recently, when the delegation from the Land of Water came to attend your ascension ceremony. Jen's expression was solemn. At that time, Lord Aono was responsible for covert surveillance, and I assisted. I remember clearly that among the Land of Water's entourage, this woman wasn't originally present. She appeared suddenly. After that, she was among the Land of Water's escort guards, wearing the standard uniform of a hidden mist kunoichi. Although she kept her head down, I could never mistake that extremely rare brown long hair. Hidden mist. Brown long hair. Female. A stunningly beautiful face instantly appeared in Arashi's mind. He recalled the hidden mist intelligence provided by Juzo. It detailed the various factions under the hidden mist village's blood mist reign. Among them, intelligence about the rebel army was considered top priority. And one of the leaders of that rebel army was Mei Terumi, with brown long hair. The report described her as possessing the bloodline limits of lava release and boil release, formidable in strength, and resolute in mind. Juzo specifically noted that although she was young, she possessed a decisiveness far beyond her years, willing to do anything to overthrow Yagura Karataki's rule. The report ended with the dire state of the rebel army. Their funding had dried up, supplies exhausted, and they had reached a dead end. All clues connected at this moment. Mei Terumi. So, this is your stop at nothing. Arashi's lips curved upward. Interesting. So interesting. He had just been wondering how to intervene in Hidden Mist Village, and unexpectedly, the other party had delivered herself to his doorstep. And in such a seductive way. As for assassination, while possible, it wasn't likely. A woman capable of becoming Mizukage wasn't a fool, she wouldn't attempt a meaningless suicide mission. The only explanation was that she had come seeking aid. Using herself, her beauty and body, which would one day be unparalleled in the ninja world, to exchange for the future of the rebel army. The thought made the mischievous streak in Arashi's heart stir. An arrogant, beautiful, strong woman who was destined to become a future Mizukage. For the sake of what she cherished, she had to cast aside her pride, trying to plead with her enemy using her most basic assets. This script, tisk tisk. He liked it. Arashi's smile grew wider. He looked at Jen and suddenly asked an unexpected question. Has she been examined? Jen was stunned for a moment, not expecting his lord to ask so directly, but quickly bowed. She has been examined. All participating women undergo the strictest inspection. This is a rule set by your subordinate, and there is absolutely no mistake. 3 of the most experienced palace old women personally checked and confirmed her virginity. Arashi's smile became completely uncontrollable. He could almost imagine it. That proud woman, that future fifth Mizukage, being inspected by several shriveled old women like an object, how humiliated she must have felt inside. Truly pitiful. My lord, should she be? Gen made a gesture of slitting his throat. In his opinion, dealing with a suspicious enemy Kunoichi, no matter her purpose, was the safest course. No, no need. Arashi waved his hand. Let her continue. I'd like to see what kind of play this beautiful bird, who willingly flew into the cage, intends to perform. Gen was puzzled but dared not question further. Understood. He respectfully withdrew. The side hall returned to silence. Arashi swirled the wine in his hand, feeling immensely pleased. He had thought life would become dull after conquering Konoha. Unexpectedly, a new toy had arrived so soon. He returned to his study, pacing before the large map. His gaze crossed the Land of Fire's borders and settled precisely on the map of the Land of Water. Mei Terumi, the future fifth Mizukage. Offering your body in exchange for hope. How naive. How adorable. He chuckled softly. At the same time, in the Daimyo Manor's administrative office, Finance Minister Tanaka Shigeru was receiving envoys from Iwa and Suna. The atmosphere in the hall was harmonious, showing no trace of the wars that had once occurred between the three nations. Tanaka Shigeru, smiling gently, personally poured tea for both envoys. Honored envoys, have you come with news from your daimyo-sama? The two envoys represented their nation's daimyo and held real power over their country's economic and livelihood matters. The Iowa envoy accepted the tea and spoke earnestly. Indeed, the cultural exchange proposed by Lord Tanaka last time was deeply considered by our daimyo. He believes it is an excellent way to eliminate estrangement and promote peace. Therefore, I was specially dispatched to discuss the specifics of cooperation with the Land of Fire. The Suna envoy also took the opportunity to speak. Our daimyo shares the same view. The war is over, the future should focus on peaceful development. However, I wonder if the Land of Fire has any ideas regarding cultural exchange. Their tone was sincere, yet their words carried a probing undertone. Tanaka Shigeru smiled appreciatively and nodded. That both daimyo-sama possess such foresight is truly a blessing for your nations, and also for the entire ninja world. Before his words finished, he suddenly shifted the topic. However, while cultural exchange is important, it cannot be achieved overnight. The exchange of art, ideas, and customs requires time, and more importantly, a stable foundation. A foundation that allows the populace to prosper and the nobility to rest easy. The Iowa envoy immediately asked, "May I ask, Lord, what is this foundation?" Trade. Tanaka Shigeru smiled slightly, slowly uttering the word. He pushed the 2 cups of tea toward the envoys, his movements calm and deliberate. Culture is built upon prosperity. If the people are still struggling to survive after the war, and the nobles are anxious about their dwindling wealth, how can we talk about cultural exchange? Arashi-sama's intention is that before cultural exchange begins, our 3 nations should first engage in basic commercial trade. We will exchange what we have, rebuild our economies, and allow everyone to profit from peace. Imagine the silk, tea, and exquisite crafts of the Land of Fire being transported to your nations continuously. And your nation's specialties being sold in the Land of Fire at fair prices. Allowing everyone to grow wealthy through peace. Tell me, isn't that a tremendous good deed? The 2 envoys' eyes lit up instantly. They had expected difficult conditions, but instead, it was trade. The Suna envoy quickly asked, "May I ask what the specific terms of this trade are?" "That depends on what you have," Tanaka Shigeru replied with a smile. "How about this? The 2 of you return to report to your daimyo-sama and then draft a trade list." The 2 envoys exchanged glances and nodded simultaneously. Agreed. To be continued. Chapter 40. Fatal Misjudgment. Everything Arashi had set in motion was progressing in an orderly manner. Except for the Hyuga. This Konoha clan, known for its ocular ninjutsu, still kept its gates tightly shut, oblivious to all external changes. Arashi's patience finally ran out. Inside the daimyo manor's study, he held a secret report about the Hyuga clan's assets between his fingers, his gaze cold. It seemed the Hyuga were prepared to resist until the very end. "General, your subordinate is here," the butler immediately responded from the side. Arashi casually tossed the secret report onto the table and leaned back in his wide chair. "Send someone to Konoha. Tell Minato this. I'm giving the Hyuga clan one last chance. The Genius Cultivation Program or the 12 Guardian Ninja Selection. Let them choose one of the two. Within 3 days, I want to see the Hyuga clan's name appear on one of those application lists." He paused, his tone becoming calm and detached as he issued the ultimatum. "Otherwise, have the people from the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Internal Affairs pay them a visit." Gen bowed deeply. "Yes, your subordinate will see to it immediately." Konoha Village. Hokage's office. Minato was buried in mountains of scrolls. Ever since choosing to submit, he had positioned himself purely as an executor, efficiently carrying out the daimyo's orders. This saved him a great deal of trouble, but it also left him feeling powerless at times. Especially when it came to the Hyuga clan. Throughout Konoha, from the advisor elders to the ordinary shinobi, nearly everyone believed that the reason the Hyuga angered the daimyo was because they refused to offer a daughter of the main family with the Byakugan. In their eyes, all of the daimyo's actions were aimed at forcing the Hyuga to yield and hand over their unique bloodline limit. Even Minato himself had once firmly believed this. He thought the daimyo was pressuring the Hyuga in such a way to gain control over that ocular power. The Genius Cultivation Program and the 12 Guardian Ninja Selection had seemed like little more than intimidation tactics. Just as he was pondering how to persuade Hiyashi again, a knock sounded at the door. "Come in." A young man in the uniform of a daimyo manor official entered, his face unremarkable. Minato recognized him at once. He was one of the daimyo's resident staff stationed in Konoha to convey orders. "Lord Forth." The man bowed slightly, his posture respectful but without a trace of flattery. "No need for formalities," Minato said, setting down his pen and adopting a serious expression. "Does the daimyo have new instructions?" "Yes." The man wasted no words and directly conveyed Arashi's command. "The daimyo ordered me to inform you that the Hyuga clan must choose between the Genius Cultivation Program and the 12 Guardian Ninja Selection. The deadline is 3 days. If there's no response after 3 days, we will have to trouble Lord Forth to take action." Minato was completely stunned. His first reaction wasn't about the harshness of the order, but confusion. He subconsciously asked, "Only these 2 choices? What about the matter of the concubine selection? Did the daimyo not mention it?" To him, that question was a given. Wasn't that the core of the conflict? As long as the Hyuga were willing to send a girl to the palace, the daimyo would surely be satisfied, and all problems would be resolved. He had originally thought this ultimatum would concern that issue. But now, that most crucial option had been directly removed. Upon hearing his question, a strange expression appeared on the messenger's face, a mix of amusement and bewilderment. "Lord Forth," he said slowly, "I think you have misunderstood the daimyo. The daimyo has never, from beginning to end, connected the concubine selection with the genius cultivation or the 12 guardian ninja. Absolutely no coercion, was clearly written in the daimyo's edict. It seems." He paused briefly, then added, "This isn't something so difficult to understand, is it?" Boom. The words were light, but they hit Minato's mind like a hammer, shattering the deeply ingrained logic of shinobi politics that had guided his thinking. A trace of disbelief flickered in his azure eyes. His thoughts were in chaos as he re-examined everything that had happened. He remembered that both the Genius Cultivation Program and the 12 Guardian Ninja had been personally explained to him by the daimyo. As for the concubine selection, it had been announced nationwide by the daimyo manor, it had never been directed at any specific clan in Konoha. So that was it. In an instant, all his confusion, assumptions, and self-righteous conclusions collapsed. He finally understood. They had been wrong. From the third Hokage, to the advisor elders, to every family in Konoha, and even himself, every single one of them had been absurdly wrong. They had treated the least important matter as the most important, while dismissing the genius cultivation and 12 guardian ninja programs as mere sideshows. Coupled with the Uchiha clan's proactive attitude, this led to a massive misjudgment. He thought of all those in Konoha who had sent their daughters for the concubine selection, and a self-deprecating smile crossed his face. It turned out, whether they participated or not, the daimyo hadn't cared at all. How laughable. How absurd. Minato's cheeks burned. They had been trapped within the fixed mindset of shinobi, using the logic of bloodline politics and desires to interpret the daimyo's grand design. They had thought the daimyo was driven by lust, never realizing they hadn't even understood what he truly wanted. Did the daimyo care about the Hyuga women? About the Byakugan? Perhaps. But that wasn't what mattered. The concubine selection was an opportunity offered to all. Yet for the daimyo, it was dispensable. If that concubine selection had been a loyalty test, then the Hyuga, with their misplaced pride, had turned in a blank sheet. They had stubbornly and righteously rejected what they viewed as humiliation. And then what? They extended that resistance to the genius cultivation and 12 guardian ninja programs. They thought they had preserved the Hyuga's dignity and the secret of the Byakugan. But in the daimyo's eyes, a clan unwilling to show even the most basic gesture of obedience was utterly insignificant. Why should a disloyal family have its bloodline merged with the royal line? The daimyo hadn't even bothered to force them to offer a woman. Realizing all this, Minato's back went cold with sweat. Just barely. Just barely. Konoha had almost lost a major clan. He finally understood the true meaning behind the ultimatum. The genius cultivation program demanded the Hyuga's future. The 12 guardian ninja demanded their present. No matter which they chose, the Hyuga had to make a statement, to maintain their arrogance, or pledge allegiance to the daimyo. It was 100 times more brilliant than forcing them to send a woman to the palace. Because what the daimyo wanted was never a woman or a pair of eyes. It was loyalty. The complete and unconditional submission of this ninjutsu clan. After realizing this, Minato felt from the bottom of his heart that he was unfit to be Hokage. Compared to the daimyo, he was truly too naive. I understand. Minato nodded solemnly. I will convey the daimyo's will, word for word, to Hiashi. The messenger nodded, bowed again, and then withdrew. Only Minato remained in the office. He gazed out the window at the Hokage rock, the symbol of Konoha's spirit, silent for a long time. After a while, he finally let out a quiet sigh. Our perspective, it's too far off. Arashi blinked, his mind moving for a moment before he connected these two unrelated matters. Then, he felt a sense of absurdity. An indescribable sense of absurdity almost made him spit out his tea. You mean, Arashi's tone turned a bit strange, those people from Konoha, including their fourth Hokage, all thought that my previous pressure on the Hyuga was to make their clan hand over a woman. The messenger lowered his head, not daring to reply, but silence itself was an answer. Arashi was completely speechless and raised his hand to rub his temples. He remembered very clearly that the edict for concubine selection was issued to the entire land of fire. The true purpose was to take the opportunity to pressure and screen the old nobility, to see who was loyal and who had ulterior motives, and to carry out a power reshuffle. As for Konoha, what he had prepared for Konoha, from the beginning, were only two choices. One concerned the future, the genius cultivation program. The other concerned the present, the 12 guardian ninja. These two choices were his means to subdue Konoha. Concubine selection, that was, at best, a political reality show, meant for mortals to watch. When had he ever considered this minor matter as a standard for testing Konoha's loyalty? Did he need to use such a low method to covet a pair of Byakugan? Ridiculous. Now it seemed that the Uchiha clan's overzealous attitude was probably the beginning of this huge misunderstanding. They moved, the Hyuga moved, other clans followed, and as a result, the entire Konoha was plunged into a strange atmosphere where the daimyo wanted to snatch the beauties of the ninja world. Thinking of this, Arashi could not help but laugh out loud. Ha ha. The laughter was not loud, but it made Jen and the messenger feel their scalps tingle. It seems I overestimated them. Arashi muttered to himself, his tone tinged with helpless self-mockery. I thought they really had backbone, but I did not expect their thinking to still be in the primitive stage of snatching people and territories. Ninja were ninja after all. Their worldview was firmly confined by bloodline limits, ninjutsu, and clan legacy. It was indeed a bit difficult for them to understand higher-level political games. In the future, when issuing edicts, the wording must be rigorous, every word must be broken down and explained clearly, and there must be no phrases that could cause misunderstanding. Arashi reflected on himself. Although this misunderstanding was harmless, and he even got to watch a good show, it did slow down the progress of the plan. He did not like this feeling of inefficiency. Never mind. He waved his hand, regaining his regal demeanor. Go back and tell Minato to relay my exact words to the Hyuga, word for word. Tell them to stop pondering over useless things. I am not interested in watching their tragic drama. I only want to see results. Yes, Daimyo-sama. The messenger bowed and withdrew as if granted a great pardon. Arashi picked up his teacup and took a light sip, his gaze deep. A bunch of fools. Hyuga clan residents. The atmosphere was oppressive. Hiyashi knelt in the main seat, his eyes bloodshot. Several elders of the main family sat on either side, all with solemn expressions. When Minato stepped into the room, everyone inside looked at him. Hokage-sama. Hiyashi's voice carried the resolute tone of someone who had given up. If you are still here for that matter, then please leave. He thought this was the final ultimatum sent by the daimyo manor. However, Minato simply looked at him silently, his expression complicated, carrying both sympathy and embarrassment. Hiyashi, Minato said, I am not here for the concubine selection. Hiyashi's tone was still stiff. Then fourth Hokage, what are you here for? Minato ignored Hiyashi's bold declaration and stated the daimyo's original intention. He finally added, if the daimyo manor does not receive your reply within 3 days, officials from the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Internal Affairs will personally visit. As his words fell, the room went silent. Everyone was stunned. They had anticipated countless possibilities, coercion, inducement, or even direct military encirclement. But they had never expected such a message. Hiyashi's mouth opened slightly, and he subconsciously asked, just this. What about the concubine selection? An elder could not help but press. Hokage-sama no longer wants our clan's Byakugan. This question immediately made Minato's expression turn strange. He looked at the Hyuga, who were on high alert, and finally let out a long sigh. I think we all got it wrong. Minato said somewhat helplessly, from beginning to end, Daimyo-sama never linked the concubine selection with your Hyuga clan. He does not care whether you send someone or not, and he certainly does not care about your Byakugan. That edict was for the whole country to see. Whether Konoha participates or not is simply not important to him. The Hyuga present felt a buzzing in their heads, speechless and choked. Hiyashi's face, taut with resolve, instantly froze. What did he say? Does not care about the Byakugan? Not important. Then their struggle, which they had staked the lives of their entire clan on, their bloodline limit, which they wanted to protect at all costs, the clan annihilation crisis that kept them awake at night, he said it was all a misunderstanding. Hiyashi's head buzzed, and the world spun. Immediately after, what surged in his heart was not humiliation, but a burst of ecstasy. The sword hanging over the Hyuga's head just disappeared. No, that sword had never existed from beginning to end. All this time, they had been scaring themselves. This relief was so intense that Hiyashi's tense muscles instantly relaxed, and cold sweat soaked his clothes. But what followed was endless fear and shame. He had almost, because of a foolish misunderstanding, personally buried the entire Hyuga clan. Hyuga's proud insight, that caution ingrained in their bones, now became a joke. The daimyo had never even coveted their Byakugan. And they, for this, had almost sacrificed everything. Just thinking about how his misjudgment had almost led them to a dead end, Hiyashi's knees went weak. His usually dignified face was now pale and ashamed. He finally understood. The genius cultivation program, the 12 guardian ninja, these were what the daimyo truly wanted. He did not want a woman, or a pair of eyes. He wanted the Hyuga's unreserved loyalty. That afternoon, Hiyashi sent 2 lists to the Hokage's office. One was the application for the Hyuga's genius cultivation program, on which were prominently written the names of almost all the younger generation of Hyuga. If he had children already, and if his brother's children were older, he would have wanted to include them as well. The other was the candidate list for the 12 guardian ninja, on which Hiyashi had written his brother's name, Hyuga Hazashi. The Hyuga clan, with the most thorough gesture, offered their loyalty. To be continued. Chapter 42. The Monarch. The news of the Hyuga's retreat spread like wildfire throughout Konoha. The Uchiha were the first to be taken aback. Deep within the clan grounds, Makoto had just finished a rigorous etiquette training session and was reporting her progress to her husband, the clan head. When she heard the news he brought back, her mind went blank for a moment.